Hi guys, welcome back to another interesting tutorial. So I saw this beautiful trouser online and it caught my attention. So today I decided to make a tutorial on how to make it. Are you seeing how beautiful this trouser is? Like, it's trendy and I absolutely love how it fits, how the cowl drops. So there are two ways to actually make this trouser, but I'm going to be teaching you one of the ways, and that way is the easiest. So if you're interested in this tutorial, let's get right into it. So we are going to be starting with our pattern drafting. So first of all, I'll go ahead and rule out my starting line. So at the end of this tutorial, you're going to be seeing the final result of the one that I made. It's so beautiful, trust me. So after ruling out my starting line, the next thing I'm going to do is to mark out the border line. This border line now is just going to is going to serve as where I'm going to start my horizontal measurement. So I use 1 inch for my border line. So after I was done marking that 1 inch, I went ahead to connect the points into a straight line. Then after that, guys, I'll go ahead and take my vertical measurement. So first of all, you're going to get your crouch length. So your crouch, how to achieve your crouch is you're going to divide your hip by 4, whatever it is you mark it. Remember that I minus 1.5 inches at the tip. Why? Because of the band. So make sure you minus your 1.5 inches before you start taking your vertical measurement. Then I marked my knee and then the full length. The full length of this your trouser should stop at your ankle. It should not flow more than that, or it should not be beyond that, because you're obviously not making a palazzo trouser. So you're more like making a pencil trouser, but it would now be altered. So that's how it is. So I went ahead now to connect these points that I made, my crouch, my knee, and then the full length of the trouser. I connected it into a straight line. So when I was done with this, I just went ahead to label the waistline, the crouch line, which is CR, the knee line, and then the full length of our trouser. So when I was done with this, the next thing I went ahead to do was to get my hip line. So from my crouch line, I came up by 2 inches. So you will come up by 2 inches from your crouch line. So I went ahead to mark that 2 inches and I used my ruler to connect the points that I made into a straight line. So this line is now my hip line. So after I was done with that, guys, I will now go ahead now on the crouch line and divide my hip by 4. My hip is 40. 40 divided by 4 is 10. I marked it and then I added 1 inch for ease. So make sure you add 1 inch for it, making it 11. So that 11 now, I place it on my waist and I marked it. This is because I want to have a straight line from the waist to the crouch length. So after I was done with this, the next thing I'll go ahead to do is to achieve my crouch extension. So to achieve your crouch extension, you would divide what you have on your crouch measurement. Remember I had 11. I would divide 11 by 4 and I got 2.75. Then I marked it. I used my French curve to give it a little bit of a curve around that area. So when I was done, guys, the next thing I'm going to do now is to get my waist. Now, before I get my waist, I'm going to minus ½ inch from my crouch. Do you get from this line now, minus ½ inch? If you have a big tummy, please, there's no need for you to minus, so that it's going to fit your tummy very well. But if you have a flat tummy, you can actually minus it. So now that part that I minus now will be our new line. So from there now, I'm going to measure my waist divided by 4. Whatever I have, I'll mark it there and I'll mark my ease allowance. For my ease, I use 0.75. I marked that 0.75 there, and then I'll go ahead now and connect to the hip line. So after I was done connecting to the hip line, the next thing I'm going to do is to check what I have on my crouch line and then divide it into 2. Why? Because I want to get the grain line of my trouser. So in making this trouser, first of all, you have to make sure that your trouser is a pencil trouser. So we are trying to achieve a pencil trouser. So that's why I was able to get this green line. So I marked it across my knee and my full length, and then I went ahead to connect it into a straight line, just the way you see me doing. Then I'll go ahead now and divide my knee by 4, and then I'll mark it on both sides. I'll divide my ankle by 4, and I'll mark it on both sides. That is what you should do to yours too. So after I was done with this, I will just go ahead now and use my marker pen and connect all of these points into the curve or into the points that it will give me. So after I was done with this, I just went ahead to highlight the line so that you can see the parts that we have. So basically, this is our pencil trouser. So from the starting line, I came down by 1/2 inch because I want to eliminate some excesses around the waist. So this is our front block. So after I was done with this, I will just go ahead and cut it out. So this tutorial is actually very, very, very easy. If you know how to cut a simple pencil trouser, that means you're not going to even have issues in making this kind of trouser, because when you're starting your slash and spread method, it will be very, very much easy for you. So after I was done with these guys, I went in with a fresh pattern paper to draft the back. So I ruled out my starting line, and then I also went ahead to mark a border line across, and I used 1 inch for the border line. This border line is just to serve as my points on how to start my horizontal measurement. So when I was done with that, I ruled it into a straight line. Then I went ahead now to take my vertical measurement, which is my crouch. Remember that we are minusing 1.5 inches from the measurement, just the way you see me doing on the tape. Why? Because of the band. So that's why we are minusing it. So when I was done with all of those marks, I went ahead to connect them into a straight line. So what I'm going to do now is I'll just go ahead and place my front block on the lines, that's on the pattern that I just drafted for the back. This will make it much easier for me to just get my crouch extension and other measurement. So I'll go ahead now and extend this line to mark my crouch extension, which is 2.75. The same thing I use for the front, that is what I'll use for the back. And then I just made that line. So from my front flap, I will go in by 1.5 inches, and then I will replace that 1.5 inches on this end, just the way you see me doing. Then I will go ahead now and just extend that line upwards. That line now, I'm going to come up from that line by 1 inch. If you have a big bum, you can use 1.5, but if your bum is moderate, you can use 1 inch, just like me. And then I'm going to extend that line to the other end, just the way you see me doing. So after I was done with this, that line now, I'm going to now go ahead and extend it to the hip line, just like this. Then on my crouch extension, I'm going to extend the line to the knee line. So after I was done extending this line, from my flap, I'll just raise my front block, and then I'm going to extend that 1.5 inches I went in by, and then I will connect it to my back flap, following my extension, just the way you see me doing. Now, if you are making a pencil trouser, what you're going to do is not like this. You know that you're going to add your allowance, but because of this kind of trouser we are making, I don't need to add any allowance. The way I just drafted it is okay by me. So this is our back pattern. Although for this back pattern, it's not really necessary, because you can actually use your front pattern to alter, or you can use your front pattern to make the back pattern. So this back pattern is not really necessary. So I went ahead to cut out my pattern. So this is the back and this is the front. So after I was done with this, I'll set the back aside because I don't need it, and then I'll cut the upper part. So now this is where the real work comes in. From my center front, which is my flap, I'm going to come in by 1 inch, and then whatever I have at the remaining side of my waist, I'm going to divide it by 4. So first of all, I'm going to get the midpoint of that one. I'll mark it, and then I'm going to start dividing these two. I'll mark what I have there, and then I'll mark what I have by the side. So basically, these are my points, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I went ahead to label it. So to get the first cowl effect is going to stop on the crouch length. So that is where our first cowl effect is going to stop. Then what's the next cowl length, which is the second one, will stop at the knee. Then the other one, that's the 3, 4, and 5, I'm going to divide this length. That means I'm dividing this length now from the knee to the full length into 3. So what I did was, from the full length, I came up by 5 inches. So do well to come up from your full length by 5 or 4 inches. It's fine. Then I'll go ahead now and divide from that full length, which is 5 inches, to the knee. So I realized that it was too close to each other. So what I did was, I had to alter it. I saw that the knee, from the crotch to the knee, was too wide. The distance was too much. So what I did was, I placed my tape on the crouch and then I marked 7 inches. So from my crouch length, which I'm doing right now, I'm going to mark 7 inches. So this 7 inches now will be my second alteration. Hope you understand. So from that second alteration, I'm going to divide it. I'll place my tape on the 5 inches I came up by from the full length, and then I'll divide that into 3. I hope you get. So now it's almost equal. So if the cowl is going to come, it's going to come in sequence. One will not be lower than one, and the other one will not be higher than the other one. That is why your cowl needs to be quite close to each other. So what I did when I was done marking all of that was now to start connecting it. So I connected point 1 to the crouch, which is the point 1. I connected point 2 before the knee. So just watch what I'm doing. So I connected it before the knee. Then point 3 now, I connected it from that side to meet my waist, point 3. Then point 4, I connected it to meet my waist, point 4. So when you're doing your own, just feel free to do whatever you want to do at this point. The main aim is to achieve that cowl effect. That is just the main aim. You can be creative about your own. So that's how it is. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'll go ahead right now and cut it out. So I'm going to be separating them. So I've separated one, I'll separate the second one, I'll separate the third, I'll separate the fourth, and then I will separate the fifth. Just the way you see me doing. So after I was done with this separation, I will bring in a fresh paper. So I'm going to bring in a fresh paper now so that I can place this my slash and spread, so I can get that very good effect of the cowl. That's to get that cowl effect. So this is a fresh paper. I'm going to place this slash and spread that I just made on the fresh paper. Are you seeing? So I'm just going to go ahead now and place it and arrange it properly as it should be. So the paper was not lying flat, so I had to just use my masking tape to tape it down a bit. So now to get that pleat at the waist, I'm going to be using 2.5 inches to get the pleat for the waist. You can do 3 inches, you can do 3.5, but don't do less than 2.5 so that your pleats can be bold. Do you get? So I just went ahead to mark all my 2.5 inches across my waistline. This is first your waistline. So I marked it to the 5th point. So I'll just go ahead now and just use my tape to hold this paper down so that I can get the down part of our cowl effect. So after I was done with this, next thing I'm going to do right now is to get the down part of our cowl effect. If you could notice, you will see that the paper would not be enough. So I went ahead to add extra paper. Are you seeing? I went ahead to add extra paper so that I can be able to spread my patterns to give me that much cowl effect that I want. So when I put the paper, I use my tape to hold it down. So I just went ahead to just spread it out. So from 1 to 2, I'm going to use 2.5 inches. from 1 to 2, I use the spacing I used was 2.5 inches. You can use 3 inches, at most 3 inches for this first step. The second step, I used 4.5 inches. That means between 2 to 3, I use 4.5 inches. You can use 5, you can use 6. And remember, the more you spread, just know that that's the more it's going to consume your fabric. So if you want your cowl to be very big, you need to buy more than 3 yards, more than even 4 yards, and depending on your size too. So between 3 to 4, I also use 4.5 inches. Then between 4 and 5, I use 5 inches. So I use 5 inches between 4 and 5. Are you seeing? So I went ahead to tape it down. So now on my crouch line, are you seeing that my crouch line? I came up from the full length by 4 inches. I marked it and then I curved it. If you check our thumbnail, you will notice that the middle part of the trouser is curved, is not straight. So that was why I went ahead to curve my own. So the next thing I did was to connect using my pencil to just like trace. Now, in this tracing, you can actually expand your tracing. It mustn't be the way I did this tracing. You can actually increase how wide you want your spacing to be. The reason why I wanted my own to be like this is because I just bought 3 yards of fabric, and I was even scared at this point that the 3 yards might not be enough for this trouser. So I would advise that you buy 4 yards. And it depends on your size. So your size will determine how wide you want it to be. So I went ahead to just cut out. So I was just kind of using my hand to check how the pleat was going to look like on the fabric. So I actually liked the distance I gave with the pleats. So this is it, guys. I'm going to set this aside now and bring in my fabric. So make sure you indicate all of these things that I'm doing. Marker pen. So when I'm done with this, guys, I'll just go ahead and just cut out this remaining part, as you can see, and then I'll set it aside and cut it on the fabric. So this fabric, as I said earlier, I'm using 3 yards of fabric, and this is a crepe fabric. It's thick, but it's still very fluffy. That means it can actually drop. Don't buy a crepe that is very heavy, that cannot drop. The benefit of this kind of trouser is to buy a fabric that is lightweight. So buy a lightweight fabric. So I'll just go ahead and pin down this pattern, and after pinning down, I'll go ahead and add my allowances while cutting. So make sure you add your allowances while you're cutting on the fabric. So this my front pattern now is what I'm going to be using to cut the back pattern, because I don't need the back pattern I made initially for this style. So I'm going to use what I have for the front to actually draft the back. So what all you have to do is just to watch what I'm doing and how I was able to achieve the back pattern using our already altered pattern. So this was when I was cutting out the front. Are you seeing? And I added allowances around the pattern, and I went ahead to notch every point. So do well to notch every point of your waist. That's where you're going to pleat. Just do well to notch it. So when I'm done with this, I'm going to fold my fabric again. So I realized that I cannot fold my fabric into two, so I had to fold it. I didn't have to fold, I just spread it once. So I'm going to use one side to cut the other side. So now for the back, I went ahead to mark out my crotch extension for the back, which is 2.75, and then I marked it, I connected it to the knee just the way I did for the first pattern. Then from my waist around my flap area, I'm going to come in by 1.5 inches just the way I did for the other pattern. Then I will come up by 1 inch. I'll replace that 1.5 inches on the waist, on the other side of the waist, and then I'll connect it to the crotch length. That's all. Then I'll go ahead and cut, and while I'm cutting, I'll go ahead and add my allowance. I'm so sorry because this video, I didn't know that it was not recording, but there was nothing special that I did. It was the same thing. The only difference is just the back crouch extension, and then coming up and then repeating the same thing. There is nothing different that I did. So for this other part of the fabric, I went ahead to infuse my haystay, so that I'll cut the zipper fly and then also cut the band and everything I'll be using to achieve the pocket too. So this fabric is what I used to cut all of those things. So for the length of my zipper, I'll be making use of 7.5 inches. I went ahead to mark it, and then the width that I'll be using will be 1.3 inches. That's the width, and the length is 7.5. So after I was done with that, I went ahead to fold again to cut the other side of the zip. You know that for a zipper fly, it has two zipper flies. One is straight and the other one is a bit curved. So the one I'm cutting right now is the one that is curved. And then for the one that is curved, I use 1.5 inches for the width, and then the length, I actually use the same length for the other one. So when I was done with this, I just went ahead to cut it out, and then I went ahead to curve it just the way you see me doing. After I was done with this, I set this aside, and then I went ahead to cut the waistband. So this was me folding the fabric to actually cut my waistband. The length of this waistband that I'll be using will be 40 inches. My waist is 34 inches, and then I added extra allowance of 5.5 inches to make it 40 inches because the band has an extension. The width of this waistband that I'll be using will be 2.5 inches. So I went ahead to mark the 2.5 inches, and then I got my length. After I was done with that, I proceeded in cutting out the band. So this was me when I was cutting the band. After I was done cutting the band, guys, the next thing I went ahead to do was to set the band aside to cut my pocket. So for the pocket, I'll be cutting 4 pieces, 2 for the front, 2 for the back. So I'm kind of removing the excess from the fabric, and then I folded for my pocket. The pocket width that the length that I'll be using will be 9 inches, while the width that I'll be using will be 8 inches. So I went ahead to cut. Then this is the second part. Then I just went ahead to curve it. I didn't want it to be 4 corner. Went ahead to just curve out. This is the third one. And then I reduced the width of my pocket because I didn't want the width to be too wide. So I used about 7 inches for my width. So this is my pocket, my waistband, and then my zipper flies. They are all ready. So the next thing I went ahead to do was to iron my waistband. So I infused a haystay on my waistband. So this was me when I was ironing a haystay to my waistband. This is because I want the waistband to be quite thick. I want that thick effect for my waistband. So when I was done, I went ahead to trim the excess of the haystay, and then I went in here ironing in 0.5 inches for the tip of the waistband. So after I was done with that, I went ahead to come in by 1.5 inches. Are you seeing what I'm doing? You know that we minus 1.5 inches when we are drafting the trouser. So now I'm ironing that 1.5. I folded and then I ironed the 1.5 inches. Just watch closely how I'm ironing this so that you can actually replicate it in any kind of trouser that you're trying to make. So when I'm done with this, I'll just go ahead now and then iron this again. So this part now is going to face the 1.5 inches. So this is how I actually go about my waistband, and it comes out very neat, and it comes out really, really good, clean. So when I was done with this, I just went ahead to trim out. So the part that I folded for the other part was 0.75. Maybe some of you that will be asking, how many inches did I use to fold in? First of all, I folded in with half of an inch. Then the second one was 1.5. Then the one that lapped on the 1.5 was 0.5. So this was me when I was ironing my zipper fly so that it can lay flat on each other. So this was it, guys, and I went ahead to trim out the excess. So my zipper fly, pocket, and my waistband is ready. So I'll go ahead now and bring in my trouser. So for the length of where the zipper fly will stop will be 6 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and sew the lower part and then leave the upper part. This was when I was done sewing the lower part. As you can see, I'll go ahead and open it. Are you seeing that this upper part is now opened? This is where the zipper fly is going to sit, which is my front side. So this is the zipper fly first, and then this is how I'm going to be placing it. I don't know if you're seeing what I'm doing, but this is how I'm going to be placing it. See the other side of the zipper fly where the zip is going to sit first. So this is it. So guys, if you're having issue with how to actually sew your zipper fly, you can just tell me in the comment section, that I'll make a separate video on how to achieve your zipper fly. So this was when I was done sewing. Are you seeing how beautiful and how clean this is already? So this was it. So next thing I'm going to do right now is to infuse the pocket. So this is me when I was attaching the pocket to the front part of my trouser. So to attach the pocket from the waist point, I came down by 0.75 and then I placed the pocket and I pinned it down. So that's how you're going to attach your own. Come down from the waist with about 0.75. So when I was done pinning that down, I did the same thing for this part. I came down by 0.75 and then I'll go ahead now and attach my pocket from the 0.75. I see the gap between the waist and where the pocket is. I'll pin it down and I also pin the other side down. I'll go ahead and do the same thing for the back side of our trouser. I will sew it and I'll show you how it looks. So this was it, guys, when I was done sewing the pocket of the front and also the pocket for the back. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to place the back side of my trouser and the right side of my trouser together so that I can go and sew it down. So this was when I was placing it. I will just go now and sew the side. So just is the side that I'm sewing, just the side of the trouser. So that is it. So when I'm done sewing, guys, I'm going to show you how it looks like. This trouser is actually very simple. It's just like your day-to-day sewing a trouser, just that the difference is that this one has droppings by the side, like a cowl effect by the side. So this is the other side of a trouser too. I'll also go ahead and sew it down. So I'll be using 0.75 to sew the side of the trouser. You can use 1/2 inch, but I want to use 0.75 and I'll sew it to the hem. So this was when I was done sewing the sides of the trouser. Are you seeing? I've gone ahead to sew down the pocket. Everything looks very good at this point. So the next thing I'm going to do right now is to start pleating the waist. So I'm going to follow my notches and then the allowances that I left to pleat this waist. So this was me when I was pleating the waist, as you can see. So I just went ahead to just keep pleating. So from that zipper part, I faced it the other way, as you're seeing, so that I can actually give it another kind of beauty. Then I started pleating from the other side of the trouser till I got close to the zipper point. So I'll go ahead also and pleat the back and I'll show you how it looks. So at this point, I just checked how many inches I have and it was okay. Although there were actually other allowances, but the allowance was good because, you know, I'm going to add elastic at the back of the trouser. So this was when I was done sewing the upper part of the pleats. I've secured the pleat. So next thing I'm going to do now is to close this part, that's the middle part of our trouser. I'm going to go ahead and close it up. So this was when I was done closing. The next thing I went ahead to do was to bring in my waistband. I'll take my waistband to the sewing machine and I'm going to attach it round. So this was when I was done with my waistband, guys. Are you seeing how beautiful this waistband is? So I'll attach my buttons, then I'll show you the final result of our trouser. So guys, if you found value in my tutorial, please do well to subscribe, like, share, and leave a comment. So this is how pretty our trouser is. Thank you guys for watching my video to the end. I will see you in my next one. Bye guys.